Hey everybody, it's Josh. I'm gonna do this while walking probably a little bit today. I was going to my garnet spot, but there was too much noise there, so they're doing construction on one of the houses up on the hill near there. I wanted to talk today. I just finished a video about the Holy Spirit, and I wanted to do kind of one that goes along with that same theme. I did also a video about, it was called The Spirits That Guide Us. And it talked about how my grandfather would visit me after God saved me. He usually came to me through Canadian geese. And I know that Christians sometimes have a sort of differing opinion on whether deceased loved ones can visit you. They probably, most of them think, oh, that's demonic or whatever. I truly believe that the Holy Spirit himself allowed my grandfather to be, my pap to be that guardian angel, come down and visit me. Because if the Holy Spirit is a counselor, an advocate, helper, comforter, then why wouldn't the Holy Spirit allow your loved ones who have already passed on to that realm also assist you? Maybe the Holy Spirit sees, hey, this is the best way to reach this person, to bring them hope, to bring them guidance. So I don't think there's anything demonic about your loved ones visiting you. In fact, I think it's very divine. You know, I went through such a transformation when the Holy Spirit came to me. I'll kind of summarize the thing with my grandfather, because that's what happened first. When God saved me, my mother had just had a stroke and was paralyzed, so I was, of course, devastated from that. Father had been had open heart surgery. My sister's trying to be their caretaker, and so I was just wandering through the woods when God saved me. And the timing on it was exactly when I needed. A month and a half later, my mother-in-law would die. She had a stroke also. She first slipped into a coma and stayed there for a few days. It got so bad, we were so broke. We had 2 vehicles that barely were running, so I had to stay home with the kids at school while my wife went to Virginia to be with her mother. And when she died, it happened so quickly that I couldn't even get up there, because I would have had to have rented a car, and it was happening the next day, and it was already after 5, and it was a mess for sure. But the night that my mother-in-law died, I was thinking obviously a lot about her. I didn't know she was about to pass away. I knew that she wasn't in great shape, and it could happen any moment. But I began I closed my eyes and I could see her. I saw her there. It was kind of like, it was hard to explain. It was kind of like a staticky room. Almost like like a, that's the best I can explain, is like a staticky room of just kind of chaos and white noise. And I saw my mother-in-law standing there, and I tried to speak to her, but she couldn't hear me. She was just staring up like this, just staring up. And I was trying to just get her attention, and no matter what, she couldn't hear me. So finally, I felt the direction from the Holy Spirit, which, remember, at the time I didn't know the Holy Spirit was even with me. I was still had a lot to figure out. Let's put it that way. But I felt that presence of God. That's the best way to, that warmth in my soul, like it radiates out of you. And I knew that she couldn't see me. She was lost and confused and maybe in her coma state. And I told her, I didn't tell her, the Holy Spirit told her, it's okay. You can go to him. Now, I'm not sure whether him was God, the Holy Spirit was talking about, or whether it was possibly her late husband, my father-in-law. But as soon as I said that, the white noise sort of turned into more of like a gentle breeze. I could feel like a peaceful twister of comfort swirling around me and kind of penetrating her, whatever fearful state she was in. And I remember, like it was yesterday, she was looking up terrified the whole time. Just, poor thing was scared out of her mind. And when I said, you can go, it's okay, you can go to him, you can let go, she smiled. She still couldn't see me, but she could feel that spirit. And I watched her just smile and just close her eyes and just taking it in. I knew what that was, because that was what happened to me when the Holy Spirit came to me. And of course, by that morning, I'd found out that she had passed away. My wife told me she passed away, that night. Right around that time. I'm not sure if time even works the same wherever we were. But things kept happening after that. And the only thing I can compare it to is when the Holy Spirit came to the apostles and they were able to channel that peace and actually heal others the way Christ was healing others, perform the miracles. Now, I the story of my grandfather visited me. I was walking my dogs, and we came to this little pond nearby. And at this little pond, my dogs like to sometimes go and stand. My lab, he's in a Lab Akita mix. He likes to go and stand in the pond and he doesn't like to swim. He just likes to stand there, and he's an old man. So he was standing there. Well, first, there's a little hill that you have to go up to get to this pond. I have a playlist of music with probably over 50, close to 1,300 songs on it. This song came on that had always been my Pap-Pap's favorite, called, I think it's The Cry of the Wild Goose. I don't even remember the name of it now, but I remember it was one that he'd always listened to, I remembered. It started playing, and I was like, oh, that's Pap-Pap's favorite song. So we get up to the pond. My dog, he usually tries to pull me into the lake when he sees that water. He gently goes and just stands in there that day while the song is playing. And then when my dogs see geese and ducks, they go nuts. They go absolutely nuts trying to get to them. They don't care if they don't like to swim. They'll go swimming. They'll pull me in the water if they could to get to them, barking and going nuts. These geese swam over to me. And despite the dogs being there, the dogs just stood there as quietly as could be. Kind of the same look of peace that my mother-in-law had on her face. And these geese swam back and forth to me, in front of me. And I knew that was my grandfather there. So I talked to him, and I got a little teary-eyed. So I went home and I told, my wife and my girls what had happened. I felt my Pap-Pap there today. They'd never met my Pap-Pap because he died years before they were born. And my oldest daughter said, "Do you think that I could go see Pap-Pap?" And I was like, "Oh man." I was like, I don't know if that's how it works, baby girl, but we can go try. I wasn't sure how it worked. I don't know if I could ask him to come and he'd just come on demand to me. But the next day, we went back and that same song started playing again right before we got to the pond. And I was like, wow. I was like, that can't be. I was like, this is just too. I was like, this is incredible. If these geese come and start swimming in front of me the same way with my dogs just standing there calmly, that's exactly what happened. My daughter and I stood there, my dog just feeling the coolness of the water, just not even paying attention to the geese. Neither was my hound dog, who doesn't even like the water. He was standing on the land, on the shore, and he was just of all the places, the geese were right in front of us, swimming back and forth. They were just, whatever. I don't know if you understand. My dogs are not they are wild when it comes to geese and wild animals. They just go nuts trying to get to them. Well, that wasn't the end of it. So we were at a different park, and my daughter was there with me, and we were just walking around. It was Poolin Park in Raleigh, if anybody knows the Raleigh area. A really nice park. And there must have been dozens of people just standing around the lake that day, but we just went for a walk around the lake, and my daughter and I just happened to go up to this one little spot. My daughter is like, "Do you think Pap-Pap will come and visit us today?" And I was like, "I don't know, baby. There's a lot of people here, and the only geese are way across the lake there." So, and there's probably people feeding him over there and everything, and I don't know. 2 geese, immediately after I said that, swam across the entire pond and started swimming back and forth in front of us. It was incredible. You know, not long after that, my Grammy, had to go into the nursing home. She had late stage dementia, and my parents had been taking care of her, but obviously my mom had the stroke, so they couldn't do that anymore. Pap came to me again one day, and I told him, I was like, Pap, thank you so much, but I've got this now. You go take care of Grammy. You protect her. You guide her where she needs to go. You help guide her up there with you. Whenever it's her time, you guide her up there. And so I kind of felt him bid me goodbye. Fast forward to about maybe a month or two ago, earlier in the spring. My Grammy had just died. I'd just been up to see her. She'd been doing awful. She was 98 years old, so it wasn't like it wasn't expected. But still, it's not easy. So I was walking around the pond, around a lake, a different lake, and I come across, I walk around the corner and come across, there's 2 geese just standing there. And they're not bothered by me, and you know, they usually will run away or something. They just look at me. And I remember there was a little wooden fence right behind them, a little tiny wooden fence post, like a little log fence post. And right as soon as I was there looking at the geese, and I realized that was probably Pap visiting me again with Grammy, then a bluebird came and landed right behind them. And I remember how Grammy would love the birds, especially at my parents' house. And the bluebirds especially. And so it was just amazing. It was just amazing how many times, because one time of this happening, you know, you can write off, it's just something that happened. But I swear to you, God knows when I need him the most. And the Holy Spirit will help you in the best way possible. If that means bringing your loved ones to visit you, or maybe our loved ones are just guardian angels that come and help us through hard times. But that's not the only thing that the Holy Spirit does. So my wife, who's not a religious person, or wasn't, not a deeply spiritual person, you know, she's kind of the opposite of me, in a lot of ways. That's how a lot of couples are. I was comforting her, and I really do think that the comfort that I had, the peace that I had, did bring her comfort through her kind of grieving process. I know I was brand new at it, so I was just relying on God completely, which I always do. But we were still dealing with trying to get those two vehicles running. They kept having, when one got out of the shop, the other would go in the shop. And, she knew that she had to go back to Virginia, which was a 5-hour drive about. And we didn't really have a vehicle that was reliable, but, we were just trying to figure out something. I just told her, I was like, maybe we should just, I guess, put a rental car on a credit card or something and just try to get up there. And of course, that was just too much for her, trying to add on another expense. And she was already so stressed out because the estate, trying to deal with that is just a nightmare. Even a small estate like my mother-in-law's. So she was just crying. She's like, I can't take this. And I took her hand and I was like, listen to me. God will show us the way. God will show us. He will guide us. And I could tell that, she didn't really believe me, but at that point, she was not in the mood to fight me or just snap back with some sarcastic remark. So I knew we needed to get a vehicle or get something with the vehicles, because the timing belt had went in my truck, and that thing was basically, if it wouldn't have been as old as it is, the timing belt would have destroyed the motor completely. So we thought it was basically trash. We were going to have to find another vehicle. I get an ad for a little loan that we could have gotten. So I apply for this loan and I was like, okay, well, maybe this is a sign we're looking for. Probably not, but okay. Not even a couple minutes later, a friend that my wife had met at a church event, had really taken her under her wing, showed up at her door. She gave my wife a big hug. She said, you listen to me. I will drive you to Virginia. I will go into the courthouse and we'll take care of all this stupid paperwork that needs to be done because the government demands it. I will be with you the whole time. Right after that, I found out we weren't even approved for that loan because we had too much debt. But by then, my wife was already, I told her the sign was going to come, and literally within the hour, it came. But you don't need, sometimes all you need is that little direction and guidance. It's the little battles of hope. And that's the thing. I've never had faith like that we would just, God will guide us. God will show us the way. I was like, no, you have to do things yourself. God only helps them to help themselves. Well, as I said, that's true in a way. But once you help yourself and once you find yourself, once you put your full faith in Him and understand what that means, He will guide you. Even if it's something just to give you temporary hope, like that loan. Okay, we knew at least, we thought at the time, okay, well, that's going to be enough for us to just at least buy like another cheap vehicle, So we're not going to be basically with one vehicle that keeps breaking down. But we found out the next day that the truck was able to be fixed for not even as much as we thought. And it all fell into place. Things like that usually before the Holy Spirit came to me usually would have thrown me into just a downward spiral, both of us. my wife and I, because that stress mounts on you. It piles up and piles up and piles up until you just can't take it anymore. You are just overwhelmed. And I know that many of you that I talk to are like this too. That's why I get so passionate about when I see someone who just feels like they can't go on in life. That is when I know how that feels. And I know how amazing it feels when God saves you from that. And I know that I didn't think it was possible to even be saved from that. Not in the way that God saved me. I thought, well, maybe, eventually, we'll just keep suffering and suffering, and then eventually maybe we'll figure out something right every now and then. But no, he guides you completely and fully. And it's not always where you want to go, where you think you want to go. It's definitely not the way you think almost ever. But he lifts you up. He takes you into his strong arms. He protects you and guides you exactly where you need to. Doesn't matter what you think you should do. That doesn't matter one bit. But there's a lot more stories like that. If any of you have any stories like this, I'd love to hear them. I'm going to do a video soon, I think, on how my kind of spiritual rebirth. It was kind of like a near-death experience. It really had the same kind of effect. Complete transformation. But you don't have to actually die. Have your heart stop and go to the afterlife to get this comfort and this understanding. But you do have to die kind of an egoed spiritual death. All right, I'll talk to you all soon. God bless you. Have a great week.